This is a video I've wanted to do for a very, very long time. Hi everyone, it's me Gaming Do, and welcome to my version of my favorite movie from every year I've been alive. Yeah, I put every year I've been born there. It's a little bit of a mistake, but anyways, I hope you can ignore that and we can just have a fun time as you find out my favorite movies from every year I've been born. I got this video idea off of both Cody Leach and Chandler as I found their videos very interesting and insightful, and I've wanted to do my own version for years now, and I'm finally gonna do it. So let's begin. So I was born in the year 2001, so we're gonna be starting with 2001. My favorite film of 2001 is Shrek. Shrek is just one of the most funny films ever made, period. Not just an animation, but period. It's got a good story with Shrek wanting to get his swamp back from Lord Farquaad, but he has to save Fiona in order to get his swamp back. But it turns out he falls in love with her, and she's supposed to get married to Lord Farquaad, but they have a change of heart, yada yada yada, and it turns out Shrek and Fiona get married in the end. Also, this movie. The comedy in this film is better than most films that are PG-13 and R. Just the "well, I have to save my ass" line alone makes this film 10,000 times funnier. But there's just so many funny jokes, like you think he's compensating for something. And just so many other jokes, and it's the best part of the movie. Shrek's comedy is hard to beat. It's just such a hilarious, wonderful, good time that it just always puts a smile on my face when I watch Shrek. For 2002, we have the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man. This is my favorite comic book movie of all time, bar none. And the reason why is not only, yeah, maybe a little bit of nostalgia, but this film also, in my opinion, just has the greatest Spider-Man story. Even better than a Spider-Man film you'll see later on the list. But this film just has great action, great performances from Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe. Just, it's even very funny. It's maybe not as funny as Shrek, but it's still a hilarious film. Especially, my favorite scene for the comedy is the whole wrestling bit when they get his name wrong and call him Spider-Man instead of the human spider. And that's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you? Just Spider-Man is, I can't say it enough how much I love this film. I love all the action scenes, especially my favorite action scene is the scene where the Green Goblin is holding a bus full of kids and Mary Jane hostage and making Spider-Man pick between the two. That just has me on the edge of my seat every time, even after watching this film like since 2005 or so. That always has me on the edge of my seat. I love the original Spider-Man film, and I always will. 2003 brings us one of Pixar's best films ever. My favorite film of 2003 is Finding Nemo. And it's not even close. 2003 for me had films like Bruce Almighty that were very funny and stuff like that, but no film is even close to Finding Nemo. And I know what you're saying. Where's Return of the King? You want me to be honest? I have never seen that film. I've only seen the Fellowship of the Rings, which is a little bit embarrassing. I might have to go back to the other Lord of the Rings films. Maybe it will change, but I highly doubt it because Finding Nemo has such a special place in my heart. I love this film. From the animation and just the the world of the undersea world and the Great Barrier Reef, just it's beautiful. And the story of Marlin traveling all across the sea just to get his son Nemo back is heartwarming. It's also funny with scenes from Dory and the Tank Gang, and it's such a fun, action-packed time that just tugs at your heartstrings, and I love it. It's one of my childhood movies, and Finding Nemo is my favorite film of 2003. Now, 2004 was hard because I had three films I considered for this spot: The Incredibles, Shrek 2, but ultimately I went with Spider-Man 2 for 2004. And the reason why I like this film more than the others is that I might have a little more nostalgia for those two films previously, Incredibles and Shrek 2. But Spider-Man 2, I think, is just the best made film out of them all. It's getting damn close to where, at some point, this film might actually dethrone Spider-Man 1, in my opinion. But it hasn't quite yet, but it's close. I freaking love this film. Honestly, I think the action scenes are much better than in the first film. And I love the scene, especially with Doc Ock versus Spider-Man on the train. It's just so exhilarating and action-packed, and I love the scene where he basically just admits to Aunt May that he's kind of responsible for killing Uncle Ben. And at first, she's in shock, but later on, when he goes to visit her later in the movie, she kind of forgives him for it. And this film is really about Peter Parker. And it's about sort of him going through life now and trying to balance him being Spider-Man in his life. And that's awesome in my opinion. And really, the only reason why I have the original above this is because I probably have a little more fun with the original. But that doesn't make up for the fact that Spider-Man 2 is an amazing movie. Okay, I was fighting tooth and nail for if I was going to pick this or Batman Begins for 2005. Ultimately, I went with this. I went with Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Curse of the Were-Rabbit, in my opinion, beats out Batman Begins just for the animation alone. The stop-motion animation from Aardman's films are just a freaking pleasure for me. And seeing Wallace and Gromit's antics in a feature-length film, it's just so much fun. Now, I don't have a heck of a lot to say about this film because it's been a little while since I've seen it, but from the many times I've seen it during my childhood, I can truly say this is my favorite film of the year 2005. In my opinion, this is one of the weakest years on the list, 2006. We had films like Cars and Open Season, which I consider pretty good. But one film that just makes me laugh and honestly kind of emotional at the same time to where it's my favorite film of 2006, it's Adam Sandler's Click. I just love the concept of this movie alone where I forgot what the character's name was honestly, but I'll just call him Adam Sandler for this video's sake. Adam Sandler gets a magical remote that can like pause events in his life and can fast forward events, and just anything you could do a remote he could do with his real life. But then later it comes back to bite him in the ass, and it's honestly some very emotional scenes that's surprising for an Adam Sandler movie. But I just love the shit out of this movie. It's my second favorite Adam Sandler movie behind Billy Madison. I love this film. It's such a... I don't know if you'd call it a masterpiece, as 2006, in my opinion, wasn't an extremely strong year for films. Honestly, if I had to go with a second place, I might have went with Hoodwinked. I love that movie. That was an awesome movie. But overall, this is one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies, so I have to pick Click as my favorite film of 2006. 2007, not even close. Ratatouille wins. And the reason why is because, as mature as Pixar can get at times, this is one of Pixar's most adult films to date. But it's enjoyable enough that kids can enjoy it. Remy has got to be one of my favorite characters in Pixar history. You can just see how freaking passionate he is about cooking. And he wants to truly be a little chef. And that's why Linguini calls him Little Chef. Linguini is a guy who can't cook. So what Remy does is he basically goes into Linguini's hat and pulls his hair and makes him a better chef. Well, this sort of backfires as Linguini's getting all the credit for Remy's work, and they sort of have a falling out, and then they get back together to impress the critic, and the critic eats the food, and it reminds him of his mother's cooking, and then it happens. The critic wants to meet the chef. They show him Remy. He has his review, and that has got to be, if not, it's my favorite scene out of any Pixar film. I fucking love the critic's review from Ratatouille. This has slowly become one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time as I've grown into adulthood. I can't tell you how much I love Ratatouille nowadays. As a matter of fact, I might even give it a rewatch tomorrow, as it's been at least a few months since I've seen this film, but Ratatouille, guys. I love this film, and it might slowly become one of my favorite films of all time, period. I love this film. The Dark Knight's not here? No. Iron Man? No. It's Kung Fu Panda is my favorite film of 2008. And no, it's not WALL-E either. Kung Fu Panda is probably my favorite DreamWorks film outside of Shrek 1 and Shrek 2. I really love this film. From all the voice performances, from Jack Black to Dustin Hoffman to Jackie Chan to Seth Rogen, they're just all... they fit their characters perfectly. And this scene has hilarious moments in it, but it also has some kind of sad moments when Oogway goes away and Po basically hears all the Furious Five shit talking him. But ultimately, Po becomes the Dragon Warrior, and it's such a fun film filled with great action scenes and very funny scenes, and I don't have much more to say about it, but Kung Fu Panda beats out The Dark Knight just because it's a great time for me. Fantastic Mr. Fox is fan-fucking-tastic. I love this film. And I've only seen it twice. Once was when I got it on DVD when it came out in 2010. The movie came out in 2009, but it came out on DVD in 2010. And it's just. While I love Aardman's animation, this is the best stop motion animation I've ever seen. I freaking love Wes Anderson's animated films. I like Isle of Dogs a little bit less, but Fantastic Mr. Fox is just. It's so damn hilarious and so damn charming at the same time. It's. My favorite scene is when, it's very simple, but it's when Mr. Fox eats a piece of French toast like a freaking savage. That had me falling on the floor as a kid, and when I watched this film as an adult again, it did the exact same thing. This film is just so damn charming and so damn fun that Fantastic Mr. Fox is my favorite film of 2009. But I thought you said you hated this movie. I never said that. And here's proof. My favorite film of 2010, starting off the decade, is Toy Story 3. Now, the reason why this is my least favorite Toy Story film is because it has a dark tone to it to the point where it doesn't have as much enjoyability or fun as 1, 2, and 4 in my opinion. But let's not talk about the negatives. Let's talk about the positives of Toy Story 3. It's an emotional roller coaster, and especially the scene where Andy gives his toys away, it's just emotional, and in a way, it's really hard for me to tell if I like the ending of 3 or 4 more, because I thought 4 was also an incredible ending. Toy Story 3 to me, while a little bit overrated, it is by far my favorite film of 2010. 2011 starts one of my favorite film trilogies of all time, the Planet of the Apes trilogy from the 2010s. And that's why Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the first one, is my favorite film of 2011. Just seeing this young monkey's life of him growing up, and then he goes and starts a monkey rebellion, basically. It really does start, well, kind of the title of the third film, A War Against the Apes. This film is just... All 3 of these films have to be in my top 25 favorite movies of all time, and you'll see where one of those goes pretty soon. But from the acting, from Andy Serkis to John Lithgow to James Franco, and my favorite line in this movie, and my favorite line probably outside of War for the Planet of the Apes, Caesar is home. That honestly brought me watery eyes. I love this film. Maybe not as much as another film, but I adore this film. What else was it gonna be? 2012 is The Avengers. What else can I say that people haven't said before? This film is just what I consider a pure joyride from beginning to end. My favorite scene in the entire movie is when Cap tells Hulk just to smash. It's that simple, but it put the biggest smile on my face when I saw this in theaters. I was either 10 or 11 years old when this movie came out in theaters, and I freaking adore this film. I haven't watched it in a long time. This is another movie I gotta watch again pretty soon. But I love the first Avengers film. It's such an awesome action-packed movie, and I love it. 2013 is not an especially strong year, but ultimately I went with Monsters University. I believe this was also the year that the second Hobbit movie came out. Other than that, I really can't remember too many movies from this year. Monsters University is the big one for me. And this isn't even close to my favorite Pixar film. That's how much 2013 wasn't that great of a year for movies, in my opinion. But Monsters University, it's still good enough. I like the dynamic that Sully and Mike didn't really get along at first, apparently. But then they became friends later in the movie, just like they are in Monsters Inc. My favorite part is just the whole scare games concept. Showing a bunch of fraternities going against each other in a game of skill, basically. And the ending is really nice, where turns out Mike and Sully didn't get to graduate from Monsters University because of a situation that happened, but they got to work at the mailroom of Monsters Inc. instead. I like this movie. It's honestly my favorite film of 2013. The only other movie I can remember seeing this year is the second Hobbit movie. So, automatically I just pick Monsters University over that. However, the next year has one of my favorite movies. Here we go. One of my all-time favorite movies, period. My favorite movie of 2014 is Guardians of the Galaxy. To me, this film is what truly made me a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan. Before this film, I was a fan of it, but I didn't really follow, what was the next Marvel Cinematic Universe film gonna be? I wasn't that invested. Until I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. After that, I was hooked on the MCU, and I still am to this day. Even though I am missing a couple of the Disney Plus shows, I'm probably going to catch up on them one day, but not right now. Guardians of the Galaxy is a masterpiece. It has a perfect mix of drama and comedy. It has what you think would be really goofy characters, which they kind of are, but they're extremely fun and maybe tragic at the same time. Look at Groot. Groot only says I am Groot, but he sacrifices himself for all his friends in the end. And the action in this movie is freaking phenomenal. What else can I say? Guardians of the Galaxy is what I call a true freaking masterpiece of a film. And it will always be one of my favorite films of all time. And it is my favorite MCU film of all time. The film that gave Leonardo DiCaprio an Oscar. My favorite film of 2015 is The Revenant. I freaking love this film. And somehow I don't have a heck of a lot of memory of it because I've only seen it once. But the one time I saw it, I love it. And over time, I saw films like Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, and Star Wars The Force Awakens this year. My second favorite film of the year is probably Star Wars The Force Awakens. That was a true comeback to the Star Wars franchise and made it popular again. It was always popular, but it made it even more popular. And I really like The Force Awakens. It's far and wide my favorite of the new Star Wars trilogy. I actually really like The Force Awakens. I can't really say the same for episodes 8 and 9. But anyways, this isn't about Star Wars. This is about The Revenant. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance, he freaking deserved that Oscar. Abso-freaking-lutely. Honestly, I think he deserved his second Oscar with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's okay, because I believe Joaquin Phoenix got it, and he deserved it. Joker is not one of my personal favorite films of 2019, but now I'm rambling on. Let me stop rambling on. The bear fight has to be my favorite scene in the movie. It's just so grisly. I'll stop. It's just so gruesome and raw that it's just awesome yet terrifying to see. This is by far the best made film of the year, and honestly, it's my favorite because Leonardo DiCaprio gives a great performance. Bringing us into films of more recent memory to me, we have The Merc with a Mouth's theatrical debut. We don't talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yep, what I am talking about though is Deadpool. Deadpool has got to be in my top 20 favorite films of all time. It's just such a great raunch fest of a time, from the scenes leading up with Wade Wilson's backstory, how he basically is an assassin, kind of. And then it's revealed that he gets with a girl named Vanessa. They do the dirty. And then he gets cancer. Wade gets cancer. And then he goes after the hunt for a guy named Ajax. And that final fight is freaking awesome. It's just... What else can I say besides what people have already said? It's funny, it's raunchy, it's violent, it's hilarious. It's actually got a great soundtrack. Deadpool is one of my favorite films of all time. I love this movie so much. Here it is. My favorite movie of all time. War for the Planet of the Apes. I love Rise and I love Dawn, but War knocks those two movies out of the freaking park. And honestly, every movie in cinema besides that. I got a story to tell you with this film. This was my best theater experience of all time. Everyone was completely quiet. I got to watch the whole movie and pay attention to all the details, and the movie just stuck with me. From basically the war between the humans and the apes, to the subtlety of like the apes going into, excuse my French, but they're kind of like concentration camps. It's supposed to be based off of that, I think. It's unnerving, but it's amazing at the same time. And the villain played by Woody Harrelson is just fucking excellent. Caesar as a character is the best he's ever been. And you even get some laughs from Maurice and Bad Ape. Steve Zahn is my freaking hero. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, he's great, but I've said enough. I love this film. And no, actually, when Caesar dies at the end, pretty much that entire day I had a frown on my face. It mesmerized me so much that I have to say, there's no other film I love, period, more than War for the Planet of the Apes. Deadpool returns with Deadpool 2, which is my favorite film of 2018. 2018 was actually a hard year. I had to pick between this, Infinity War, or Into the Spider-Verse. Ultimately, I just went with the one I had the most fun with, and the one I just enjoyed the most overall. My order would probably be this, and then it's even harder to probably pick between Spider-Verse and Infinity War. Honestly, I'd probably go Infinity War and then Spider-Verse. But they're all close to 10 out of 10 movies for me. I probably like this movie more than most. I love Deadpool 2. I don't think it's quite as good as the original because it seems a little bit sappy at times compared to the first one. I know it's supposed to be a little more dramatic than the first one, but the dramatic scenes to me weren't quite as strong as some other movies, so I have to say they were kind of the weakest part of the movie for me. But they were also strong when Wade goes to see Vanessa. I think it's kind of resembling the afterlife, and they play Take on Me. That was actually beautiful. But anywho, it's just like the first one. Comedy everywhere, raunchiness, violence, and Deadpool basically has to take care of this kid. I forgot his name, but is it Firestorm? Gosh, I don't know. You know I'm awkward, so keep up with me. It's just an awesome movie. I love Deadpool too. Not as much as the first one because it is a little bit sappy at times. But from the raunchiness to all the funny scenes between Deadpool and the kid and Cable. Cable, played by Josh Brolin, he's really the only other part that's kind of dramatic, but his scenes and drama are a little bit better in my opinion. I think this film is awesome. My favorite scene, though, is when Deadpool meets Juggernaut and Juggernaut rips him in half. That's fucking awesome. Deadpool 2, ultimately, I just had a super duper blast with, and that's why it's my favorite film of 2018. Did you expect anything else? It's Avengers Endgame, my favorite film of 2019. Actually, like 2018, this was a kind of hard year. Not quite as hard as 2018. I could distinct my favorite movies a little bit more this year. And that's proof because Avengers Endgame is instantly, without a doubt, my number one. I've watched all of my top three films last year, and I watched Toy Story 4 too, and none were as good as Avengers Endgame. And the reason why I just love this movie is because it's the perfect ending to the Infinity Saga. We've been seeing all these movies for 11 years at that point. This movie's going to be 3 soon. I can't believe it. But um, the action scenes are probably the best action scenes in cinematic history, especially the final battle when all the heroes come out of the portals back from the dead after the snap and they just go and fight Thanos. It's such an awesome scene. And even the scenes of all the heroes who weren't snapped out, like Iron Man, Captain America, Rocket Raccoon, Big Thorbowski, they all going back and getting all the stones from different points in time. That's an awesome concept and kind of reminds me of Back to the Future. And just I can't speak about this movie without speaking about the emotional scenes. Black Widow's death, and especially Iron Man's death, is freaking heartbreaking. But it's in a good way. It's not like sappy like the scenes in Deadpool 2. I'm sorry, but that's really the reason why I don't really think Deadpool 2 is as good as the first one, but Avengers Endgame is my favorite Avengers movie by far. And it's my second favorite MCU film behind Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Avengers Endgame, and it's instantly my favorite film of 2019. All right, we're almost done. We're now into this decade, the 2020s. We're starting off with 2020, and we start off with Ben Affleck's The Way Back as my favorite film of 2020. 2020 wasn't really that great of a year for films, mainly because of the pandemic, but also because there wasn't a lot of films I was anticipating that year, especially compared to 2019. I don't think I was anticipating films as much as I did in 2019. There were so many films to anticipate that year. 2022 is the closest year since 2019. That's why I did a list. But anywho, 2020 has The Way Back, and it's just, I could call it kind of grim because it's about an alcoholic basketball coach who coaches his team, and he has extremely bad alcoholic problems. And it's just, Ben Affleck's performance in this is awesome. Probably my favorite Ben Affleck performance ever. And this was the last film I saw in 2020. I literally saw this on New Year's Eve, and I was like, why didn't I see this sooner? Maybe because it was a dramatic film. I think the only reason I saw this is because of Good Will Hunting, and I got a feeling that I might have had a similar feeling to this film because of him and Matt Damon, but I don't really know. I don't really know what to say about this film besides the fact that I love it. I probably go into a little more detail in my ranking of the 2020 films, so see that if you want more detail. But trust me, I love this film, and it's my favorite film of 2020. And finally, we're at the very end of this list with 2021 because I haven't seen any 2022 films yet because it's still only January. We have Spider-Man No Way Home as my favorite 2021 film. I love the shit out of this film. This was actually the second film I saw in theaters in the pandemic era, but it's by far the best out of them. I saw The Green Knight also, and that was a good film, but it doesn't even touch No Way Home. This is probably the film I'm going to be the most descriptive of. Just all the different villains from all the different Spider-Man universes coming back. You get Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, Jamie Foxx's Electro, Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman, and I forgot who played the Lizard, but he came back too. And it was awesome. And the scene where the Green Goblin kills Aunt May, it's just, oh, it tugs at your heartstrings. It's so freaking, oh. I'm sorry if you haven't seen this film yet, but it's been over a month, so I'm pretty sure maybe you could have expected it, but it really tugs at your heartstrings. Um, and then the Ned summons Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. The only time I think I ever screamed louder at a movie was during Avengers Endgame. I was so freaking excited to see them. I might have screamed even louder. I was clapping as loud as humanly possible with the biggest smile on my face. It was freaking awesome. I loved it so much. I'm just nerding out about it so much. It's my favorite moment of any movie last year when Toby and Andrew came back. I love that. And then the final fight between all the Spider-Man and all the villains, it's just so awesome. I gushed about this film so much, and the ending leads into what I think is going to make Tom Holland possibly the greatest Spider-Man of all time in live action because he's on his own now. Everyone forgot Peter Parker. So he's completely on his own now, and that's a gut punch just like Aunt May's death. But I love Spider-Man No Way Home. It was so worth the wait, and it's my favorite film of the pandemic era and the decade, and my favorite film of 2021. So that's it, guys. I've done every year since I was born, basically a ranking of every film since I was born from 2001 to 2021. That's the span of 20 years of film, and I hope you like this list. Sorry if I wasn't as descriptive with some of those films, just maybe I haven't seen them in a little while, so it kind of fogged up in my memory a little bit. But I'm planning to probably rewatch all of those films this coming year, because I love them. But yeah, that's about it, guys. I hope you like this video. Gaming Do here. See you later. Bye.